Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. Today, this will be for Breaking Bad. Yes, Breaking Bad. I'm actually talking about Breaking Bad again, and I can't find my notes, but it is for El Camino, which is a Breaking Bad movie that just came out today on Netflix, and also, I believe, released in some theaters. I don't know if every theater, but it is released in some theaters as well. So if you haven't checked it out, you may want to check it out before you watch this, as this will be a lot of spoiler type stuff. But El Camino is one of those things that, for me anyways, something I didn't know I needed, but now that I've seen it, I really, really love it. And okay, I'm going to start this off at the beginning here, and I'm not alone. If this is your first time joining us, I have with me a lot of good friends that pop in and out of here from the live motherfucking chat. We've got Jasmine, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, right in the live chat. Yeah, Todd makes me want to throw up. We'll get into Todd. But ultimately, this whole thing was a very simple story. I think it was done correct if you're going to do one of these things. It didn't feel like a movie to me. It felt more like an extended episode in something of a bookend that I kind of wanted now that I've seen it. Beforehand, if you're really against this, if you're like, Breaking Bad ended perfectly, I don't need to see anything else, by not watching this, you can just assume and yada yada. Here we go, spoilers away. Here we go, bombing down the spoilers. Jesse makes it out okay. He makes it to the vacuum cleaner salesman and makes it out. That's basically all this is about. It's about Jesse getting away from the neo-Nazi group, figuring out his next step to get away, and then the peripheral stuff is hearing about the Walter White empire and how that is all affected. But this basic story of this is a pretty simple one, and I think that was done well in the sense of no bigger, deeper thing than a normal episode. It's Jesse getting to the vacuum cleaner salesman and getting the hell out of Dodge City or Albuquerque City. And getting to, well, again, this is spoilers, getting to fucking Alaska and having a talk with Jessica Jones, meeting back up with Jessica Jones after her show was canceled, and having a big meeting back up in the stars now, and having a flashback kind of situation. But that's what I'm saying. Like, also mixed in with that, we get a few flashbacks, more flashbacks of Todd than anybody else probably, and all seeing a big extended section of Todd. And I'll get into this. We're going to recap it a little bit. Or I'm going to recap it a little bit. I'm here alone today. I will be back to talk about this movie in more of an open forum as well, with my very first guest host, Gotti, and Joe Dirtylocks as well, and maybe some other friends popping in here. So I did want to mention a little bit about Breaking Bad. I've been doing this silly shit on this channel or other places for a long time. But basically, these recaps, talking about television shows, talking about movies and that kind of crap without just more of a wide-angled lens, started with Breaking Bad. It started with the last season of Breaking Bad. The first recaps you'll see on this channel, if you go all the way back, is Breaking Bad. So it's good to talk about it again. I am a card-carrying member of the I Sniff Vince Gilligan's Bumhole club. Yeah, that's a club, in the sense that since he started this universe, there's not much he's done to it, or him or Peter Gould. And this is an all Vince Gilligan thing, where Better Call Saul at this point is more focused around Peter Gould, with Vince as the general director. In fact, this next season of Better Call Saul, I feel like I need to give more attention to Peter Gould away from just that, because he's more the head of Saul right now. Vince is going to get all the credit or all the disdain if it comes in that direction, but Peter Gould at this point is as much part of the universe as Vince is with this Saul stuff going on. We don't get a Saul Goodman. We get Saul Goodman referenced. We do get some characters popping back up here and there. The most we get is Todd. Yes, there is a Walter White moment towards the end of the movie. One big extended scene, which I believe is an extension to when Jesse left the keys in the car and they ran out of power and had to jump it in a weird way, or during that period of time where Walt thought he was going to get bad news and they went off to cook the big amount that turned into what they gave to Gus, and when they were going into the Denny's after the fact. We get a good scene between the two of them that reminded me, yeah, it was a little fan servicey. The whole thing had elements of fan service, but I do feel like it was done in a smart way. I hope the Soprano movie, which is going to be coming out soon and set in a different era of the Soprano universe, is going to be probably not the same thing, but something similar in that regard. And I hope it's a simpler story that they try to just have be done in the same style of which made the show great. I think that's what I love most about this movie, this 2-hour episode here, is it feels like Breaking Bad. From the very beginning of the episode when it starts, it doesn't take me out of the illusion that I have from just watching the show. I just rewatched Breaking Bad up until this point, finished the last episode 2 nights ago, and then got into this. And I felt like this was the next logical point. They start you right in there. So did I like this? Yes. This is a lot of side buttholes all across my face. I really enjoyed this. Is everyone going to enjoy this if you don't love Breaking Bad and love this universe? Maybe not. If you want to be, oh, it's fan servicey, it's unnecessary. Yeah. End Breaking Bad where you did. But because you can. This isn't something that you need that completes the puzzle in the sense, but it does complete Jesse's story. And that's something that always kind of got left out, like a big fucking meatball on a toothpick hanging out there at the end of the Breaking Bad story. Pretty much everyone else had some sort of conclusion to their storyline. You knew what happened to Skyler and Junior, essentially, hopefully if they get the money, or if Junior gets the money through Elliot and whatever the hell her name was, from the Gray Matter people. And you know what happens to Todd and that whole gang. You know what happens to Marie, essentially, to a certain extent, too. She keeps going on, and her and Skyler repair their relationship as we see them on the phone at some point in time. And if we go to Jesse, we don't necessarily know what happens to Jesse. We just see him driving off into Need for Speed 2. You know, he's like, I'm driving for Need for Speed. But I really love this. This was perfect what I wanted it to be. I took half a day off of work. I came home to sit down and watch this. I couldn't get enough of it. And this is a total Vince Gilligan ass sniffer right here. My biggest criticism is I feel like they probably could have stretched it out to a 4 or 5 episode arc and had it, which I guess is 2 hours, or have it be like 4 hours instead of 2 hours, and have it be a couple of episodes and release it as a mini series on top of it. If I'm complaining about anything, it's that I felt like I even wanted more time at the beginning when he was hanging out with Skinny Pete and Badger, but it had the correct amount of tension. There were a couple of silly moments, but Breaking Bad has silly moments. Tuco's a silly character. We get a shootout where I don't know if it was some sort of reference or passive reference that Aaron Paul is on his way to Westworld, which he's very proud of his performance in Westworld. I heard him talking a lot about it during the press for Breaking Bad, and of course that's a show we talk about here. So it's going to be interesting to see Aaron Paul being carried over to this. And I also heard something in partly going into this. Aaron Paul's agent passed on some big high-profile movie, and he was really pissed off about it when the movie finally came out. I really want to know what movie that his agent passed on, because I absolutely love Aaron Paul as an actor. You could see him getting awesome throughout Breaking Bad, just his character getting more space, figuring out more of what he is. And I think he really gets to explore that in this movie. We do get one yeah bitch. If you want your yeah bitch count, I'm pretty sure we only got one towards the end, and it's a flashback of younger Jesse. We don't get any modern Jesse yeah bitches. But we do get some funny Jesse one-liners. The movie was funnier than I thought it was going to be. I had, not fears, but I had some sort of apprehension that it might be a little serious, and it wasn't. It had some extreme comical moments in that dark Breaking Bad way where something happens and you go, should I laugh at this? I'm laughing at this. This is fun. So I absolutely enjoyed it. It was everything I needed it to be in the Breaking Bad epilogue. And again, that's what it is. And I see why Vince was saying, I don't know, people are like, oh, is there going to be more of these? And Vince is like, I don't want to do more of these, but, you know, if people like it, maybe I will. I don't think there could be more, at least in the preceding future, because what's to happen after this point? The movie ends on a very conclusive kind of point where Jesse is off to his new life, similar to what Walter was at the end of Granite State, was it? No, I forget which episode it was. The second to last episode of Breaking Bad. He's set up in a different place. But unlike Walter, who had some sort of piss and vinegar going on and wanting to keep going and had people he needed to stop, we have Jesse being very content in where he is, and we get a message at the end of the whole thing, which is from Jessica Jones. They talk about the universe taking you where it's going to take you, and the decision which Jesse makes inside of his head and has a full character arc is to think that, no, I'm not just going to let the universe take me where I want to take it. It's better to make those fucking kind of decisions yourself. And I decided to be put in this position. And I like that throughout this whole thing, Breaking Bad as a whole. This movie, this is why I say it feels more like an episode than a whole arc, or than a movie in like a 3-act movie structure arc. It feels more like an extension to the Breaking Bad universe set in a 2-hour point, so it needs to be referred to as a movie. It's really an episode and an epilogue and a conclusion to the Jesse arc, which kind of got held out on a limb there a little bit, with him just driving away and not really knowing what was going through his mind in that whole year or so that he was abducted and being forced to cook meth with Jack and Todd and all those fucking shitheads. So this allows you to get more into Jesse's mind in that period. A big lion's share of this whole thing is spent dealing with Jesse being imprisoned and how he's coping with that, and a few moments in addressed to that when he gets the grates hooked up and how he gets attached to be able to work on a chain. His relationship with Todd, and a completion point in the movie where he finds out, or we see that he knows where Todd's cut of the money is, and we see why, because Todd's a creepy fucking son of a bitch, and we see more of that. And Todd, over the course of that year, really gained a lot of weight and got really old. I'm just saying. Todd was the only one. Skinny Pete and Badger looked pretty one for one. Jesse, I bought it all. There was never a point where I was like, oh, Aaron Paul doesn't look young enough to play Jesse, even though he does look weathered in the modern time period. But Todd was the one that his characterization of Todd was perfect. It was great to get more of him because he's a sick prick. And we got a lot of, we actually found out that Lydia's in the hospital going to die. The news report served as the Walter story, or to hear what's going on in the story. But the actor that played Todd definitely gained a few. I'm not saying he looks horrible, but he definitely looks a little bigger, look a little punchier around his midsection there. But I love what they did with I love. That's me trying to say the words like and love at the same time, so it just comes out sounding like blah. But like and love, I absolutely love what they did with Todd's character in this movie. At first, I thought they were going to just have him be in the shadows as they were showing him behind a grate with Jesse looking up through the rafters at him. Another thing, and I'll get into this when I get into my recap of this. The visuals, that's why you see this in a movie theater. If you haven't seen this and you're thinking about it, and I know I've spoiled the shit out of it already, but if you're thinking you want to see this thing and you haven't watched it on Netflix yet, I say it's worth going to see it in a movie theater just because of the visuals. And I would say, I don't know who the director of photography is for Vince Gilligan and his team and the Coen brothers and their team, but next to the Coen brothers, Vince Gilligan maybe, for me anyways, visually shoots some of the best wide-angled shots of landscape kind of stuff, seeing the desert, seeing the night-to-day effect, or that was the day-to-night effect, or night-to-day effect, whichever one, seeing the transition of time effect. I did it. I covered all my asses there. All my huge asses I covered. By seeing that, it just reminds you so much, and you see it in Better Call Saul, as this creative team just gets better at editing and making film and making amazing visual depictions and stories. And that's why I can't wait to see what Vince is going to do next. He says his next thing is going to be something completely different. Excuse me, HBO, could you hire Vince Gilligan to do one of your fucking Game of Thrones prequel series, please? I don't know if he'll do great in the fantasy genre, but I really want to see him test himself in that genre. And he started his whole career out on the X-Files, which I know is not fantasy, but it is sci-fi, magic, alien bullshit type stuff. So it's not completely without merit to think about him going back to something more fantasy. I keep saying fantasy. Something more fantasy. Come on, Vince, just do it. Save Game of Thrones for us. But no, he is his visual style is very important to the way the stories are told on Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and now this Breaking Bad movie. And I'm sure if I went back and watched the X-Files shows, episodes that he had more of a focus on, you'd see that there as well. And he keeps getting better at it. I've said this before. I love Breaking Bad the first season. I think the storyline's tight, but if you watch Breaking Bad up through Better Call Saul, and I'm not talking about the way the stories line up, I'm talking about the way it visually looks. It is like a snowball being rolled uphill, just getting better and better. Oh, no, that fucking makes sense. It's like some cheese being hanging out in the sun, and it just tastes better. Oh, gross. I don't even know where I'm going with this. All I mean is he keeps getting better and better and better. So I've ranted for a few here. I'm not alone. I mentioned if you were here watching this for the very first time, I'm doing this live whenever you happen to be watching this. And this is also going to be part of a podcast, a double podcast that's half my co-host and I, Joe Dirty Locks, talking about the season premiere of The Long Disaster over there. And this as well. I'm going to couple this in one giant podcast. So if you're listening to any part of that, thank you so much. And make sure you're subscribed to us to get all of our Babble fests, whether it be on YouTube or any of the pod-catching apps that you can listen to our silliness. But I am recording this live, and I do have the live motherfucking chat. That's some live people watching right now, and I'm going to pop on in here and see what some of these people think about this when they go, Phil, you're an idiot. I fucking hate this shit. Jasmine, Breaking Bad. Soprano says, Todd makes me want to throw up. Yeah, I talked about that before. Fuck Todd. Uncle D. Great to see you, Uncle D. It's been far too long of a break for me. Good to be back here, breaking some bad. I have not seen the full movie. I just want to stop by and say, have a great stream, my man. Walking David, love you, buddy. Great to see you, and we'll have to do some fun shit very, very soon here now that I'm back in the mix doing these things. Hey, we got to see Lauren's Corner in the live motherfucking chat. Great to see Lauren. She just finished the movie. Oh, yes, we've got Santovia. We got the real YT. We got DJ Better. The film turned out to be half what I expected, but generally it was good. Hey, DJ. Great to see DJ. Great to see everybody. Forrest, I haven't seen it yet. Just here to say hi. Cheers to everyone. We got Jay in the live chat too. Great to see everybody. Yeah, it's going to be mixed results for people. It wasn't what I'm going to say. Again, it isn't must. You have to watch this to complete the Breaking Bad thing. If you're curious about what happens to Jesse next, watch it. It's not something that creates all this more mythos to the Breaking Bad thing. All it does, I think, is tell a very simple story in a fun way. And it's something, me being in love with Better Call Saul and really with this universe, cannot get enough of it. And I'm not saying if this was shit, I wouldn't come out here and tell you. If this was shit and I came out here, this would be my reaction. Yeah, it was good. I mean, and then the stuff happened. Yeah, it was, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I loved it. Vince is awesome. And Vince I trust. But that part when that was a good part. But no, I like this from beginning to end. Was it 100% necessary? No. Was it really fun and well acted and well put together from a filmmaking standpoint? Yes. And does this team keep getting better and better at shooting and editing and production? Yes. And I cannot wait to see what Vince and his team do next after they close out Saul and seeing the next logical step, not even in this universe. I want to see, as a filmmaker, where he goes from here. And that's more than anything what this movie made me feel, that he touches something and I like it. I don't know. He touches me in any inappropriate parts of my body and I'm going to fucking like it. Tom himself, who's going to start to troll me here and to tell me how much he hated it. I love you, Tom. Great to see you. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't care about spoilers. It's almost seemed too tranquil at the end. Is that weird? It rounds off Jesse's last adventures and finally taking care of him, getting away from what made his life hell. And absolutely, Lauren, and bringing in kind of what I was saying a second ago about what Jessica Jones was saying to him at the end about, instead of letting the universe just push Jesse through in whatever situation, whether it be at the beginning in high school with, or post high school with Emilio, and being in that whole situation, or with his band even, and being just the drummer and kind of going along with them, being dependent on that, to go to the next point of when Walter grabbed him and brought him into his life, to even that second stage of that when Mike tries to rip him away and Gus try to rip him away from Walter, and he's going in their direction, to the point at the end there where you think he might be free, he has a choice, and they talk about that in this movie, and I'm glad that they covered that with the vacuum cleaner salesman Max Cherry, who is a big part of this as well. That's like, no, you still owe me from the first time. Jesse had a chance to get out of here and finally make a decision for himself, but he didn't. Again, he got wrapped up in the whole situation and let his anger take over, and then was playing Hank's game, and then eventually playing the neo-Nazis game. He's never been able to make his own decisions, and this is about that journey of getting him to the point where he can finally make a choice and start over again. And kind of Jessica Jones bookends the whole thing if you look at it as Jesse's story at this point. And I think that was an interesting thing too, especially when we get to the Walter and Jesse scene. I don't know if this was subtle or just something that I'm picked up from my projections of watching it, but seeing that scene, knowing that most of Breaking Bad, if not all of Breaking Bad, is coming from strictly Walter's perspective, in a sense, in the way you're watching it, in that main character way. And that scene when we saw Jesse and Walt together, it almost seemed like for the first time we're looking at things through Jesse's perspective in that moment, as he remembers the moment. And when we see that time where in that scene where Walter looks off to the side and looks out the window and says, "You're lucky you're young," it's very much, I took it as seeing Jesse seeing Walt, or us seeing Walt through Jesse's eyes instead of seeing Walt through his own eyes like we see through most of Breaking Bad. And I like that a lot. And it's just those little subtle ways it's filmed. Walt was almost filmed on less of a close-up than he usually is when we saw him through Breaking Bad. He's usually framed in a much, much more intimidating kind of focus in some ways. And nothing lasts forever except for these crazy eyes. But nothing lasts forever except for Cold November Rain. I have to say that everything I could possibly say with that before I can make my point, and then I'm going to forget my point. Nothing lasts forever except for these crazy eyes. I am rocking that today because my hair is a shit show right now. Kind of round as if it was shit, you would say this was shitty, it was awful, and I'm pissed off. It's true, I would. But I think I'd be more sad. I'd be like, what the fuck, man? Freaking ruining my baby here, you know? Because Breaking Bad is in the conversation. I always say this is in the conversation of the greatest television series of all time. I would put it in that top tier of top 3 or 4 shows for me. And this is my list, people, where you got The Wire, The Sopranos, and Breaking Bad. Then that next tier down, you got a few other shows that might hit up there for me on occasion and might poke through. Better Call Saul is getting there in some ways. You have parts of Game of Thrones that's right there as well on that cusp, maybe occupying that 4th spot for me. Then you have shows that I think are maybe better from beginning to end, but maybe I don't like quite as much, like 6 Feet Under, for instance, which I think is such a complete story arc from beginning to end, done in an almost poetic way that's almost super complete. you know, and then you have, I could just keep naming HBO shows. Boardwalk Empire, which Mad Men, if you're into Mad Men, has a very amazingly tight story arc that is never really abandons the story it's trying to tell. But for me, those great shows have an edge that you can't capture anywhere else. And to me, those top 4 in some order, I would say top 3 with some spaces in between them, would be The Wire, Sopranos, and Breaking Bad. I think you got those. And so in both these 2 of those shows are doing a add-on to a certain extent. This is the first of the 2. The Sopranos one is more of a prequel add-on, which I think is more problematic. And David Chase has been out of the business, or out of the business a little bit longer than Vince, who's constantly making. So I'm very curious to see what David Chase does with that movie. And I don't want to spend time talking too much about The Sopranos right here, but it is worth mentioning in a sense of that if anything touched this in a bad way, I would shit all over it. I would. And you could say this was meh in some ways. People could say, yeah, it was, maybe a little slow at times. And DJ is right. The end felt oddly serene. It's almost like, and that's why I say it didn't feel like a television, didn't feel like a movie. I didn't feel like we had a real crazy big moment arc. What was it? The shootout that we got, the Westworld style shootout moment that we got, which was silly in a sense, but Breaking Bad silly. So I think it did end in a melting moment, not so much a bang. And that could disappoint some people, where the end of Breaking Bad ends in a bang. And that's why I'm saying, if you don't feel like you need to know Jesse's story onward, and you're happy saying Jesse gets away, I see Jesse driving away, he gets away, that's done. You don't have to watch this, really. You don't. There's not much more. Or if you're like, I'm dying to know more about Todd. I'm dying to know even more about how sick of a fuck Todd is. And I want to know what happens to Jesse. And I want to hear more surface area noise about what went on with the Heisenberg case after the fact of what happened to Walter. And you also want to get a couple of really funny moments with Skinny Pete and Badger that are definitely worth the price of admission. If you're hungry for all of that, if you're hungry for some more, if you're knee deep in Saul and you can't get enough of this, the texture of this universe, this is a love letter to you. And it's not crazy, thick, disgusting fan servicey in the sense of how it could be in some ways, but there's moments popped in there you're like, okay, did they just put this guy in here for a fan service moment? One of the examples is the trash guy that shows up for like a second and then just runs off in a funny moment. But let's go. Todd makes me want to throw up. If there's money to be made from shitty remakes and sequels, endless hopeless audiences with random good ones, hopeless audiences, then randomly good ones from good properties is likely. Todd, he makes me want to throw up. Jesse's parents are still assholes. Skinny Pete and Badger were amazing. Oh my God, they really were. They really were. That was the greatest way to start this thing. So let me, do I have anything else I want to say? So layered, lots of flashbacks. The tone all felt the same to Breaking Bad. Felt more like a huge episode than a movie. I loved it. Did not need it, but I love it now that I have it. It's almost like when you don't have someone in your life. You don't meet them. You don't know them. You don't know they're going to be special to you. And that, for me anyways, this is how this movie was for me. I didn't know this. Ignorance is bliss on this factor. I didn't know this girl. I had no contact with her ever before. Maybe I saw her in passing and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Then finally we get stuck in an elevator together and we end up kissing and having like the most amazing time ever. And it's really wonderful. And next thing I know, I need to see her a couple days a week. I need to find time to see her. And I need to know it, and it's a place that I needed without knowing that I needed it. And that's how I feel about this movie in the sense, or this episode, this epilogue. I feel weird calling it a movie because I think I'd feel differently if I saw it in the theater, because it is cinematic in some of the views, and I saw it on a big TV in 4K. It looked really fucking good. It looks really good. It's shot on such a high quality level. It's a movie in that sense. I mean, the way the structure of it all feels like a Breaking Bad episode. He didn't break form and write a 3-act structure movie here. He wrote an extended episode of Breaking Bad that he wanted to release in multiple formats, so he's calling it a movie. But it's not a movie in that way. But now that I have this, now that this movie's kissed me, it's part of my Breaking Bad love. It's not something I'll go, oh, no, the series ended there. That Scrubs final season didn't happen. It didn't happen, which is what most people can say if they hate add-ons to series. Oh, the Golden Palace didn't happen. It all ended in the Golden Girls. I'm only thinking about that because I watched a fucking Hollywood story on the Golden Girls yesterday. I don't ask me why. I got stuck into it. It was oddly hypnotic, and I didn't realize that there was. Speaking of which, then I watched a Hollywood story on Cheech and Chong, and there was some crossover between the two because there was a post Golden Girls series minus B. Arthur with Don Cheadle and Cheech Martin both as stars on it, called The Golden Palace, where Blanche buys a hotel and the girls try running it with Don Cheadle and Cheech. I swear to fuck, I'm not making this up. What does this have to do with anything? It has to do with something that Skinny Pete and Badger would probably talk about. But it's true, it exists, and I watched an episode of The Golden Palace last night. And it's oddly funny in a weird way, especially if you're a fan of the Golden Girls and Cheech Martin and Don Cheadle after the fact. Because it's like, oh shit, it's young Don Cheadle. Okay, this has nothing to do with Breaking Bad or or anything, but it does have to do with a distraction to give me a little bit of time to scroll upwards and push this button right here. Where the fuck? Push the goddamn button. You're talking about the Golden Palace. You can't even get to this in time. It's time for the recap. Recap! Hey, Phil. Is it a fun movie even for someone that's never seen or doesn't remember Breaking Bad? No. I don't think so. I wouldn't suggest watching it for anyone that hasn't seen it and have a working knowledge of what happened in Breaking Bad. At least do a rewatch or of one of those YouTube videos that recaps it in 5 minutes or something, just to be familiar with all the points, especially towards the end and some of the shit that happens with Todd and all of his crew. Aaron Paul did one of those on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. That's kind of funny too. So you could check that out. It's just search Jimmy Kimmel, Aaron Paul recaps Breaking Bad. Just watch one of those, then you might be able to get it. But I would say this is more selective audience kind of thing. I think it's more made for people like me that fucking can't get enough of Breaking Bad. No, I just mean people that have a working knowledge of this universe and understand some of the little subtleties of it and the humor built into it. Is it good on itself? Visually, yes. Aaron Paul gives a great performance, but you're going to be a little lost if you don't remember some of the key points, and it doesn't hold your hand with it, like say something like Cobra Kai does with the Karate Kid. Like if you've never seen the Karate Kid, you can still turn on Cobra Kai and watch it because it fills you with all these flashbacks for all the Karate Kid moments and brings you back there. This doesn't do this. This films and watches like you're turning this on right after the last episode of Breaking Bad. And it picks up right from that point. Doesn't remind you a lot. Doesn't go, hey, remember this? Remember this, dude? Oh, I don't remember this part. Hey, dude, over here, remember this part? I don't remember this part. Oh, wait. I don't remember this part. Oh, remember you don't remember this? I don't remember this. Remember this? Remember? It doesn't give you a lot of member berries going on. It makes the assumption that you know the material if you're there. It's not an entertaining standalone movie. And I think there's some parts you might enjoy watching as scenes on their own, but you're not gonna get the same level of television, whatever, or I was gonna say orgasmic delight that I'm getting out of this without knowing the Breaking Bad stuff. Recap! Okay. So weird that the woman who leads him down a bad path might have given him the advice that he needs. Fandom both. Hey, Phil, it's a fun movie. No. Hey, Stan gets spoiled or go and watch later. The Jane scene was the most unexpected for me. Not sure how I feel about that. Do you guys think we may see another movie focused on Walter's family and the investigation, the aftermath, especially the kids? I did hear Vince talk about that in an interview. I think if we see anything else, it might be something like that. A Skylar Marie stuff. I just don't know if that has the it factor to sell, because as much as Marie and Skylar and Junior and Holly are good characters, the series, I think, to really fly needs Aaron Paul or Bryan Cranston. Someone could say Better Call Saul, but Better Call Saul is a different show that deals with different things. And I mean, maybe you can introduce some new characters. I think Michael McKean definitely helps the beginning part of that. And I'm blanking on her name, but the actress that plays Kim Wexler, who is fucking amazing on Better Call Saul, and also all the Sandpiper people and Mike, obviously. I think a series that's revolving just around Walter's family would be tough to sell for a whole hour. I think if you coupled it with some other story about maybe Walter pre-Gray Matter and can somehow match it up with somehow about watching Elliot and what's her name? I'm blanking on it. Gretchen. Elliot and Gretchen giving Junior the money and having that coupled with something where you bring Bryan Cranston back for some flashback Gray Matter stuff and answer the story of Gray Matter. So I could see something to answer your question and take it to answer your question with another question. No, to answer your question with correcting what you asked and doing my own shit. I could see something like that. But you'd have to couple it with another interesting story that brought Walter or Jesse back. And I think you could do it with Gray Matter and seeing how Walter went from that to ultimately becoming a teacher. I don't know if it's great enough to sell super crazy hype, but it's something I could be interested in watching because I'm curious about if Gretchen and Elliot went through with it, how that was taken from Skylar. how Skylar and Marie's relationship goes. Is Marie still shoplifting and wearing purple? Like, where's that all going? So I think there's enough there if you couple it with some of the star power that's revolved around the series. And I think if you don't have Bob Odenkirk or Jesse or Bryan Cranston or Aaron Paul, it's tough to push the needle on it a little bit. But so I need to know, is Walter White dead or alive? Dead as a doornail. They make sure they say that right off the bat. Golden Girls is life for people at a certain age. Golden Girls is amazing. I used to watch it every Saturday night. It's one of the funniest written shows ever for like one of those situational comedies. The beats between all four of those actresses going back and forth. You have four of the smartest, funniest actors working at the time, and people that were, grew up around each other. Obviously, they all had a lot of crossover. And yes, I'm talking about the fucking Golden Girls. But you have, Betty White, who was on Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was a great show before that. You have Blanche and Dorothy, B. Arthur, and Ruma McClanahan, or whatever her name is, who are both on Maude. And then you have Estelle Getty, who is just a freak of nature talent with humor on a next level, and some of the shit that Sophia could get away with saying on that show. So yes, I'm a fucking big Golden Girls fan. Fuck all. Yes, it's fucking great. Yes, Walter's dead. They make sure they say it all the time. His parents pissed me off. Oh gosh. Fandom dead. Yeah, dead. They make sure they say that very early on, that Walter is dead as a doornail. So yes. So let's get into this. It starts with a fun info card, and then bam, that visuals of Breaking Bad is back. The landscape. Jesse is there, and he's saying he won't be happy. Oh, we hear voices. The whole thing starts out. The whole movie starts out with Jesse talking to Mike. Well, it's not really Mike. I think it's a flash of Mike, that he's having a vision of talking to Mike about how Mike's going to, or maybe he saw Mike before Walt got him the money, before Walt died, or at some point when they split up the money. I'm not sure what point in time this is, if it's an actual memory or if it's a flash that he's imagining Mike and seeing Mike inside his own head to save him through the times that he's being trapped by Todd and his gang. I'm not quite positive what it was. I have to rewatch it to dig in deeper to if this is a memory or if this is a flash and a vision that Jesse's having of Mike, that's using him as a way out of this mentally. What the fuck are you talking about the Golden Girls? Good question. I know so many Breaking Bad people are tuning into this at this point. They're like, dude, get into the fucking movie. How are you talking about Golden Girls right now? I'm talking about them because I have Skinny Pete and Badger on my head, and it's something that they would talk about. I think it was a flashback with Mike. So okay, we'll take it as a flashback. That's the same scene where there's the same lake where Mike died. That's okay. So I said, saying he won't be happy. Jesse's voice talking to Mike, and this is the place where Walt killed Mike. So maybe Jesse went to see Mike right before Walt met up with him, or this is Mike's meeting spot, so that Jesse's met him at a different point in time. So he talks about how Mike's going to give the money to Kaylee. He says Jesse shouldn't stay around town, and if he's Mike says and this is why I thought he was in his head, because Mike says the thing about Alaska. That's the only reason why I thought it, because that was in his head from the Jane thing. So in the way Mike kind of got animated there, is Jesse's basically saying to him, it's right down to business. If you enjoyed the Mike and Jesse interactions, it's great to see them interacting. It's great to see Mike have an affinity for someone besides his granddaughter. And you don't see that on Better Call Saul at all. He doesn't give a shit about Jimmy. And you see him with Jesse. It's great. And he says, Alaska, go to Alaska. It's the last frontier. I thought it was weird that they didn't put Skinny Pete in the police station. I thought it was weird that it wasn't the trailer. So there's scenes. Now it's an excuse to buy the fucking Blu-ray of this when it comes out, because there's scenes that they cut, because there is a Skinny Pete scene with him at the police station. Because we see it in the trailer. The first trailer released are the police interrogating Skinny Pete. So there's probably some stuff that was just used in the trailer that wasn't actually in the final product. Okay, it's a conversation that happened during Breaking Bad that we never saw. I thought it was weird that they didn't put him. I agree. I thought it was weird that we didn't see this scene. But okay. So great start. we get to see Jesse. He's going to head to the last frontier. It starts right out in the world. It feels like the characters, it's focused. It's on stream. The show is moving. Jesse starts to put things right, and Mike is like, you can never do that. Jesse says to Mike something like, I want to put things right moving forward. And Mike says, this is something you can never do. And again, this is why I thought it might be a vision in his head, because this is Jesse's guilt telling him that he can never right the mistakes that he makes. And it sets up, but even if it's just a conversation in Breaking Bad that we never saw, that connects to the end when we see Jesse talking to Jessica Jones and talking about how Jesse is finally making his own decisions. And when Jesse was in the desert listening to the news, I think Mike and Walt were in his head, and Jesse was in the desert listening to news. I definitely think Jessica was definitely obviously in his head because she's dead. The Walt scene, I believe, too, is a projection, and I'm not sure if it's exactly how it happened. And Jesse's remembering Walt being more caring of him, which is an interesting twist. It's. Again, this is going to scream for repeat viewing for me to kind of dig a little bit deeper, and this won't be the only podcast I do about this movie. As I mentioned, I'm going to do another one with Joe and with my cousin Gotti, or at least with one or both of them to talk and break this movie down even more on a rewatch, when I can kind of rewatch a couple scenes and analyze it a little bit more with what I think it means. Because right now I'm going to be throwing a lot of shit at the wall, and some of it's going to stick and some of it's going to just be bullshit that slides down. You know what I mean? Because Mike, right when Mike says, "Shut up, Walt, let me die in peace, Walter." Shut up, Walter. Let me die in peace. So great start. We flash to the immediate conclusion of Breaking Bad, where we see Jesse in the car and we see the cops right in front of him as he turns off. The shit's real intense right off the bat. Gets your fucking heart pumping as you're brought right into that moment. Again, I don't know if I feel extra special towards that because I literally just ended the series 2 nights ago. But it put me right back in the moment. The tension is right back in the finale again, and I cannot get enough of it. Jesse pulls his balls now, and then we're in the Need for Speed game. It was an interesting transition where we bring that right there to Skinny Pete and Badger playing a video game, and I'm not sure what game it was. They kept saying Apex, but maybe that's a racing game I don't know about from 2008 or something, or 2009, whenever the hell this was set. Maybe it's even later than that. Someone who's better with Breaking Bad timeline shit, please correct me in the comment section or in the live motherfucking chat. But I was just, for joking purposes, I'm like, are they playing Need for Speed? That'd be a great little Easter egg. And Badger and Skinny Pete are doing their thing. I'm not going to start quoting their one-liners, but they hit the ground running and they are amazing. It's you're like driving Miss Daisy, you're like Thelma and Louise, you're driving the short bus, you're like my grandmother driving the short bus. Funny shit, well written, and interesting to think that this is the same night that they were working for Walter using the laser pointers with Gretchen and Elliot to scare them into thinking that they were the hitmen that were going to be following them. So this is what they were doing next, hanging out at Skinny Pete's house playing Need for Speed. Jesse says to Walter, I'll make sure your family gets your share. That's why I definitely think Walter was in the head. I felt heartbeat quicken multiple times during this movie. Yeah, and this section at the beginning was right where it started. It was probably almost the most tense the whole movie was. And a couple of other moments where you're like, this can't happen. Something bad's not going to happen to Jesse here. And then it actually happens when he... And I'm jumping ahead, but I've already thrown out spoilers. In the scene where he's in Todd's apartment and we think those guys are the cops, that's such a fucking tense moment because I'm thinking, there's no way Jesse's getting caught here. And then he gets caught and you're like, fuck. This is not going the way I thought this is going to happen. Jesse is not the $6 million man. He's not going to be able to get himself out of this position. What's happening here? And then to see where that went was very fun. Okay. So we see funny shit. We see Jesse comes to the door and bangs on the door. And at first, his friends do not recognize him, but they're worried about him. They need to get the car off the street. So they load it in and they knock over a sign, which is really funny. And it's already making me laugh like Breaking Bad does in a sick fucking way. We see Jesse eating a ton and then passes out, and Badger and Skinny Pete go and watch the TV news. We see Breaking Bad passive night to day effect happen right there, which is really fucking cool. We see Saul's place, I believe, get passed by there, and then we see the TV talking about Walter's robot, and we hear why Jesse's a person of interest. Was he liberated by Walter White? It seems like the cops have started to figure things out a little bit more. El Camino 2, a Badger and Skinny Pete film. Make it happen. I would be all for that, Cohen. I would be there for that. At least an episode. At least some short videos. Can we at least have the Breaking Bad YouTube channel put out like a YouTube series of Skinny Pete and Badger hanging out like Cheech and Chong? They could get a whole... do we have to get this new Jay and Silent Bob movie? Can we just get a whole fucking... Badger and Skinny Pete take on the universe? Phil, you ain't showing screenshots, copyright shit? Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted, this is immediate reaction stuff, so I wanted to come on the air right away, and no audio clips, no video clips, none of that shit. Not risking it anymore. Not risking videos getting fucking flagged and taken down, and I can't download the podcast, and it doesn't exist ever. And only people in Bulgaria can watch it, because it's banned in all other cities. Fuck that shit. Just have to deal with my talking head ass. Sorry. Yeah, it would just be exactly. It'd be like a Cheech and Chong, Jay and Silent Bob movie. Like, oh, actually, I want to see a Freddy versus Jason, Jay and Silent Bob meets Badger and Skinny Pete. They'd fuck those two bastards up. Okay, so yes, I yelled at the TV when it was revealed they weren't cops. Really great moment. They try to talk to Jesse, but he doesn't get them. Oh wait, okay, so Jesse's still sleeping, wakes up with an almost smile, then he freaks out because he doesn't know where he is. He thinks he's back in the cage, and Skinny Pete and Badger come in, and he doesn't know who or what's going on right there, so he draws his gun on them, and basically he finds his way out of it. But Aaron Paul is excellent. This was one of those first moments in the movies, and not the last one, where Aaron Paul just shows his acting range and shows how he can play that crazy. And if you think about Jesse's whole arc from the beginning of season 5 to the end, he had such an amazing acting arc in that season, and this just completes it. So incredibly amazing. Pete dresses Jesse, and him and Badger joke about how Badger's fat and how Jesse and Skinny Pete are in good shape. They all talk to Jesse, but he just has his head down. They're trying to cheer him up, and they're like, take a shower, dude. You're fucking gross. And they basically say, oh yes, he's like, don't shave, you'll be less recognizable. And they want to feed him more. They start to ask him, did they really keep him in a cage? And he closes the door with a yes. He then takes a shower, and you can just see the dirt flowing down him, mixed with flashes of him being hosed down by Jack's gang, as Todd promised him he would bathe him more. He freaks, looks in the mirror, and then we see the whip marks, the scratch marks, and just all the fucking shit he's been through. Then we go out to Skinny Pete and Badger, who are smoking a joint, and they ask Jesse if he wants some, and he says no, but they turned off the TV, and Jesse wants to watch the television. And then Jesse's back from that point. We see a couple more flashes of Jesse having some post-traumatic stress from it all, but at this point, throughout the rest of the movie, we get a different shade of Jesse Pinkman. We get Jesse Pinkman older and weathered, but we still get some of Jesse's Jesse-isms and tone and kind of the rhythm to which he talks, which isn't much different than Aaron Paul. Let's not. Someone said this once before. I forget who it was talking, and I'm stealing someone's thunder here. But when you watch Breaking Bad for the first time and you get to see Aaron Paul, it's almost like you're not watching someone acting. And I think that is a skill that some actors have in certain characters that they play that are just so close in some ways to themselves. And I think if I don't hear Jesse when Aaron Paul talks, I hear Todd, and not Todd from BoJack. Oh yes, when Bob says magnet bitch, good one. I died laughing. Great stuff. Melly, I loved it too. Great to have you in the live chat. I don't think we needed an entire hour of Jesse trying to find cash in Todd's apartment. I don't think we needed it, but I like it. but fair enough. And I want to be clear that I said at the beginning, I'm loving this. I'm going to be gushing all over it. But is it needed? No, wasn't needed. Needed in the sense that the story needed it. You can just accept the yada yada that Jesse drives off and finds a way out. I think everyone assumed that Jesse wasn't just picked up and arrested right afterwards. We all thought Jesse found a way out. But this explains that if you want to know it. If you don't, you don't. But that's what it does. And is it needed? Do we need a whole 2 hour of that? And most of the movie, once you get to a point, is a very small story. It's Jesse needs to get out of here. Jesse doesn't have enough money. Jesse needs more money. Jesse goes. And Jesse-isms were great. His interacting with the vacuum guy, very, very perfect. So we asked for a burner phone to get rid of in the car, and he needs to get rid of the car. And we go to the junkyard, and we see the junkyard guy. Woo! I love this guy. Fan servicey, yes. Slap that fan service dick across my face with this guy. He's watching TV. He's hearing about Jesse. The phone rings. He's like, I know who this is. And he shows up at the house, and he's like, dude, everyone knows you. The guy comes in, and he says, Jesse, sorry, I don't have any cash. Jesse's like, I don't have any cash yet. And dude's like, how's on the house, kid? You're good. And he says, you guys are awesome. Magnet, bitches. That was great. And he's a Breaking Bad fan just like the rest of us. He's checking the car, the El Camino, if there's any bugs or anything. And Joe goes, he gets a little, and whenever you see scenes like this, they never usually find something, and he finds something, it beeps, and then he just runs the fuck out of there. He's like, LoJack is activated, get the fuck out of here, the cops are on their way. Jesse says sorry to Skinny Pete, says give me the keys, I need to get out of here, and but I'm sorry, you're gonna have to deal with the cops. Skinny says, wait a second, I got an idea. And Skinny Pete comes up with a very smart little plan here. He tells Badger to take his own car, he tells Badger to take his car, Skinny Pete's car, and drive it to Mexico, because he says, Jesse, you're not going to Mexico, are you? And Jesse's like, no, I'm not going to Mexico. He's like, I'm going to take your El Camino. Skinny Pete takes the El Camino, and he gives Jesse Badger's car, so that when the cops finally show up, he'll just tell them that he smoked a joint with Jesse, they switched cars, and he left and said he was going to Mexico. So then if they find the car, dude, the fucking car, they find the car, then they'll think that Jesse just escaped into Mexico and be thrown off the scent. Definitely good plan from Skinny Pete. And they all hug and they say goodbye. They make fun of Badger's car and say a criminal will never be caught in it. And it's a generally good move and good moment where the three friends say goodbye, and we get a goodbye for these three characters. And then Jesse turns to Skinny Pete and goes, why are you doing this, dude? And he looks at Jesse and goes, you're like my hero and shit. I just fucking love it. I'm sorry. Little moments like that are everything for me in the series, because those guys in some ways are the heart. They're Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of this whole fucking universe. They bring it through, or and they connect it from beginning to end. It's such an exceptional part of the series, these two characters, and they were created in a very fun way, and they've always popped up in the most opportune times for the fun stuff, and we still need to get that Star Trek script produced someday. I want to see that shit. I kept such a good time. Skinny Pete scenes were the best. It really was. Skinny Pete killed it. Like, those two actors got right back into characters. Seeing all of them, the way this whole movie started, this episode started, was perfect. It brought it up to this point, whether it was going at a really epic pace here at this point. And I forgot to mention that Skinny Pete gives him his hat. We see lots of cops, and Jesse's freaking out, and thinks that from a visual standpoint, almost similar to what we see with Saul and Cinnabon, Saul, and Gene. And people that don't watch Better Call Saul, each season of Better Call Saul is coupled with a bookend, or is it just at the beginning? It's either at the beginning and at the end, or just the beginning. I'm blanking right now. I think it's just at the beginning of every season. We get a flash of what Saul's up to after he went to the vacuum cleaner guy. He's managing a Cinnabon in Wyoming, I believe it is. And we see a moment, and we see a couple moments where we see things from Saul's perspective, and we see him be extra paranoid about what's going on. We see this roadblock set up, but there are a lot of cops around. We see an excellent aerial shot. We see one or two shots in this movie that I haven't seen in other things that I really love. There's a great aerial shot of the intersection right here. The other one was when he was looking for the money in Todd's apartment, and we get the visual from the top of the building down through like a visual, almost like a real estate view from the top down, and seeing everything in like a Google Earth real estate view that I absolutely fucking loved as well. And I wish Combo was still alive. Don't apologize. It was an awesome line. I wish Combo was still alive too. And And I believe I make a reference to Combo in the notes at some point in time. But Combo was the perfect balance to the three of them, to the four of them, and he is missed. And one of the greatest moments of all of Breaking Bad is when Walter finally steps up and kills the drug dealers for Jesse for payback for Combo. I love that moment, and yeah, great fucking stuff. I cannot wait to get back to the Better Call Saul recaps as well. It's been so much fun to talk about that show, and I can't wait till this final season, or if it's the final season, and to get back to all of that. It's definitely my favorite show on television right now that airs every year. Some of the Netflix series might get in the way of that discussion, like Ozarks, or I really like Mindhunter right now, and Glow and Cobra Kai. But for shows that air on a network or a television station every year right now, Better Call Saul is top of the list for me. So I cannot wait to finish that. Next movie will be Jesse finding a way to return Skinny Pete's hat to him. I paid to see that. I wanted to hear Skinny Pete say sorry, it smelled, but give Jesse the hat. So he sees a cop, he freaks out. We get another flashback of Jesse in his cage. We see a shadow, and here's where we start our Todd shit of the episode. Todd asking if he's awake, and Todd's, so what's going on? You need a cigarette. We see a definitely much older and much fatter Todd. There's no way around it, and I don't mind this stuff to a certain extent, but they did a good job at denying us a full view of Todd when he first came on screen. But once we get full view of Todd, Todd looks a lot different. The performance was still there. Visuals are not everything, and the performance was still there, but it's a lie if I didn't say it took me out of it for half a second and how Todd looks a little bit different. But whatever, I got over it quick. This moment of silence is brought to you by Chronic. This Chronic break was brought to you by Skinny Pete. Skinny Pete, passing out hats forever. And we're back for the more of the recap. Sorry about that, guys. So I got to keep myself lubricated here. So we see the cop freak out, and then there's Todd. Oh, Todd wants a butt. Lets a butt down on a string. Oh, he's so nice. Isn't Todd the nicest guy in the world? Todd talks weather with him. They talk about the clouds and shit. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like my boss talking to me about the weather when I'm going out walking dogs. He's like, okay, it's going to be a weather day here. And then he tells Jesse him and Todd are going to be together all weekend, all alone. It took a lot of work. He convinced them, but Uncle Jack and all his guys are going water skiing, and Todd doesn't like water skiing, so he's gonna hang out. They're gonna have boys' weekend with Todd and Jesse. Oh my goodness! And if you try to escape, Brock dies. Just remember, like, I'm sorry, Jesse, you and me are like totally good friends, dude. Like, I love you so much. It's shiny, happy people. Did you see the sunshine out today? It's like a beautiful day on a summer night. Oh my goodness, it's so wonderful. Now, if you betray me, I'm going to have to kill that little boy. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it, Jesse. I don't want to shoot that little boy in the side of the head and then burn his body and then somehow keep a memento from him in my apartment so I can look at it always and always remember the time I killed a little boy. You don't want me to do that, do you, Jesse? No. Okay, I won't. Okay. And then he says we're going to hang out all weekend. And Todd combs his hair and keeps him clean. He's like, I promise I'm going to keep you cleaner. I'm sorry, buddy. And then we're going to head into El Camino. And Jesse has to hide. He's like stuck in the back. Jesse and Todd, he needs help. It looks like he needs help moving stuff. He bought a back to his truck on Craigslist. And Jesse this whole time is like, dude, is this what you need? And this is Jesse not quite fully broken. Jesse's a little whiles into being taken here. It's right after probably Andrea died and before like it really set in on him here. So this is somewhere in the middle. Malcolm in the middle. No, sorry, that was bad. Somewhere Malcolm in the middle. And oh no, that's not the right one. This is not for hippie activities. This is me scratching my nose and not wanting to do it on the air. Because there's nothing more disgusting, even if I promise you I'm not going in. If I'm just going, it just looks really gross. It's that or eating, or like two of the grossest things someone in my position with you guys could do to you right now. I could chew something. I could chew ice and be like, or I can pick my nose, or scratch my nose, or touch orifices of my body. If I do any of that, which with we're this kind of close of a relationship right now, it's gonna be extra disgusting, even if that's not my intention. So I just wanted to apologize. I'm sorry 1,000 times over. Todd, that dead-eyed, opie piece of shit. Not expected to survive. Ben's right. That was lucky, bitch. Did you notice that they didn't really confirm that Liddy is dead? They said chances of her surviving are low. I did notice that. I said at the beginning that we got confirmation that she was dead, but you're right about that. They clearly said that she is in critical condition, does not expect to survive. And we didn't get confirmation later in the episode, and I'm calling it an episode now. We didn't get later confirmation in the episode that we hear we hear another news report that woman who was in critical condition died as the latest case of Eisenberg's stuff. You know, maybe we'll see that on Better Call Saul. Maybe we'll see Gene watching a E! Hollywood Story-like thing, a crime, making a murderer on Netflix on Walter White. That would be a funny little extra thing that they could make for Breaking Bad, a little companion piece to go with once Better Call Saul is done and you have this, you put out a full box set and then also release a 30-minute fake documentary like a making fun of Making the Murderer or any of those other crime documentaries about the Walter White case, with other actors playing bad versions of Walt and Jesse, you know, like for recreations and stuff. And you see Saul watching it. You see Gene watching this like, what the fuck? It's not like it. You could even hire the actors that play the characters in the Spanish version of Breaking Bad to play them, just for kind of like a humorous connection into the universe. Since I know I've heard Vince talking about that and how he loves that series exists. So he could bring those people in. I want this now. This is another, I just kissed another girl I want. This would be great. Todd beats Dexter by miles. Jesse is Todd's pet. He feeds him, he cleans him, he takes him on rides, he hugs him, he squeezes him, he calls him George. He's like Elmira of fucking Nazis, this guy. Okay. So sad that Todd is Jesse's sole source of kindness in this world. They should follow up on Walter's family, especially the kids. I know. I do want to see that essentially. I mean, I want to know, to go back to what Lauren was saying earlier and to talk about it again. I do want to see that Gretchen and Elliot gave Walt Jr. that money, and Holly and Walt Jr. are taken care of with that $6 million or however much it will be at that point in time. Okay, which is one of the only things we didn't touch upon at all in this movie. We didn't get any reference to the White family except for hearing Jesse say that. I don't know if that was what that line was in the movie, to let us know that their family's taken care of. Your family will get what they deserve and what they want, what they need. Just to kind of make us think about that for a second as a line to be carried forward. But I'm jumping on two Breaking Bad things I want, if I want anything more. It's the flashback to the gray matter stuff mixed with a shorter thing. Maybe not 2 hours of it. Maybe just an hour, another episode. But I think it's going to be a while before we see something like that, if we ever see something like that again. From hearing everything Vince has said after this movie's come out, he wants to do something else first, and then maybe relook at this universe. He has not closed the door. People have asked him that question over and over again. And someone actually asked him that exact question that you're mentioning, Lauren. I want to know about that. You can find it if you search YouTube videos. You can search Vince Gilligan interviews about El Camino, and you can find someone asking him that exact question about Walt's family, and we'll see more about that. And he says that would be interesting because there would be any opportunity to work with Anna and Betsy, I believe is the other actress's name. And so he does think about that. And Vince doesn't like to leave hanging fruit anywhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, even if it's webisodes or we see some completion through Better Call Saul or through some other means to get back into this universe again. He's just very cognizant. Is that the word? Yeah. I maybe not pronounced correctly, but that's the word I'm going for there. And we're gonna go with that pronunciation. It's a very, very stony pronunciation. He's very aware. I love my Elmer Fuddness sometimes. Cognizant, aware of that he doesn't want to get typecast within the Breaking Bad universe. He doesn't want to get Kurt Suttered here. And where Kurt Sutter tries something else outside of his norm and people are like, go back to your roots, buddy. He wants to do something completely different next. So I expect something not either a romantic comedy, sci-fi, or fantasy is where he's going to go next. RJ Mitty. Thank you. That is name. I haven't seen it yet. Can you in the chat tell me if it's more like a new episode or a spin-off? More like a long episode. Absolutely, more like an episode. Except for Better Call Saul, I like the Breaking Bad. I feel like the Breaking Bad storyline is done. I feel like that too. There's more information that could come out, and this only makes you want to know it more. Again, information about his family could be released in a follow-up book, could be released in extra material that comes from the creation universe. But I agree that I wouldn't mind knowing more. This movie makes me feel selfish, but I do feel like the story of Breaking Bad, which is Walt and Jesse's story, for their end is at another conclusion point that if it ended here, that would be fine. But if they wanted to pick up and add a little bit more of an epilogue, if they want to go all Lord of the Rings epilogue, I don't think Vince wants to tempt fate too much. He's now in my mind, hit 2 balls now that have been pitched at him that could be failures. One was Better Call Saul, where him and Peter figured that out by the end of season 2, what that show is going to be, and it ended up fucking great. And even if it's not your kind of show, you can't deny its competency of a program and how it's effective in doing what it's trying to set out better than almost any show ever. It's developing a relationship between brothers and two brothers, and seeing the relationship between Jimmy and Kim, and then seeing the Breaking Bad aspect of it, which is the Jimmy falling into the Saul, and then adding the whole Mike and Gus in Salamanca aspect of it, which brings in that Breaking Bad pedigree in these last couple of seasons, in season 3 and 4. It's fucking delicious shit going on over there. This comes off more as an episode follow-up to Breaking Bad. It feels more in that stuff. Okay. So it's, I want a freaking Elliot and Gretchen and Walt story and what happened. That's exactly what what I've been talking about here and talking around. I think I'm coupling my thoughts and what you want, Jasmine, with what Lauren wants in one movie set up like Godfather 2, in the sense that we're getting a flashback to gray matter mixed with gray matter in the modern time and how they actually go about giving Junior the money and how that actually works, the conversations that they have, some sort of connection. I think you could do that in an hour, and that would be very fun. So the music amps up as we see Jesse and Todd, and we see the visual style of the film as we see them heading up the stairs, dropping the keys, and trying to head into the apartment. We see the use of time travel, flashback and time travel used so organically awesome here in this moment as we see Jesse breaking into a house that we don't know what it is, but we see it coupled with a quick flashback of once he's in the apartment that's cut off with police tape. We see that it's Todd's place, and we see all that which goes with this. The landlord just misses him. Then we flash forward back to Todd. It's Todd's apartment. We see later in that day Todd having Jesse in the house. Todd brings Jesse into his place. He's excited, and he asks him if he needs help painting because his house looks like Easter eggs. We see that he also has a thing for snow globes, and he has that kid's spider. What was that? Whatever that kid's name is. I have it written somewhere down because I did remember it at the time. But the kid that was killed in the desert at the train heist. He needs help. There's a body in there. Jesse's all fucked up. He's like, holy shit, what is that? And it's Sonia, the cleaning lady. Todd doesn't want to talk about it. They roll up in the carpet, and they leave her there. He goes to Todd, like, what'd she do? Like, what's the situation? And Jesse says, she didn't do anything. And we hear about World Books encyclopedias, and we see that Todd stashed all his money in a bunch of World Books, but eventually says that he's going to move the money. So we see Jesse find the books in the modern time, and he can't find the money, and he eventually has to trash Todd's apartment and goes all through Todd's apartment looking for that money, which we'll get to in a second here. Jesse finds the spider, that's Drew Sharp's, and sees snow globes and sees the books, and it's crazy. Todd needs to hide the money better, and Jesse's like, there's a fucking bank out there, and Todd's like, no, I just need to do some engineering. Then we flash to an amazing montage of Jesse looking for the money, and we see the search. Just great visuals. My fuck. We see his parents on the TV. They say he used to be a good kid. He used to draw, but we haven't seen him in a year. Please come forward. People died, the mom says. Then we see, which connects out to the end, we see him pushing... Then we flash back to the time with him and Todd, and we see him pushing the body out the window, and happy music as Todd is disposing of the money. Todd is such a freak. He's like singing along this happy song as they're rolling around with this dead body, and he's like, and then they stop. Jesse's hiding in the trunk with the body, and we just see some visuals. We see Jesse digging a hole, which breaks up the montage. Todd's like, we'll say goodbye to her. Jesse, you have any words you want to say? Jesse's like, I don't have any fucking words. What the fuck, man? And Todd's like, she was a good woman and an excellent cleaning lady. And the way he says it, it's just so fucking psycho. And the way it reminds you so much, brings you right back to Breaking Bad, to when this guy he's a fucking tragic goddamn psycho. And I am freaked out by Todd in every way possible. And then Jesse gets a gun because Todd tells him to go to get a pack of cigarettes, which I think he knew the gun was there, and he wants to set up Jesse just to fuck with him some more, kind of like Ramsey letting Theon out here. And just it's like, hey, Jesse, why don't you give me the gun? Give me the gun. Don't you want a pizza, Jesse? Doesn't my little baby want a pizza? Oh, does Jesse want a pizza? What does Jesse like on his pizza? And Jesse likes pepperoni on his pizza, if you're answering a trivia question. And he cries. Todd comforts him and says it's going to be a great sunset. Uncle Jack says, life is what you make it. Like, what the fuck, dude? And back to Jesse looking for the cash, full-on mode now. Great aerial roof shot. This is one of my favorite shots in the entire movie. He doesn't have it, and then he's like, fuck. He bangs his head against the fridge. He hears it and notices that, shit, the fridge is rigged for some loot. And the loot falls out, and he gets the money. He finds the money, but right as he's getting the money, the cops come in. Jesse jumps and hides, and the place is ransacked, and the cops kind of talk, and they talk back and forth in a way that makes it seem like they're cops, but they're actually not cops. And let me paraphrase this whole thing, because I am running out of time to a certain extent. Unfortunately, I am on some sort of a time schedule here, so I have to yada some of this stuff. So we go through, we get a tense moment as we see the cops doing their thing as they fucked up the house. We see the spider, and one of the dudes goes, this dude's got a tarantula. We'll call him Dude 1, and the other guy's Dude 2. And I did get their names at some point, but I kind of forget them at this point. So Jesse holds the gun and he says, I'm going to kill you, and I don't want to be a cop killer today. Just let me go and I'll be cool. Jesse takes the gun and tells him to call his partner in here. It's very casual. He says, casually do that. But once he calls him in there, the partner pulls out his gun like he knows something's up. And they come in there, and the guy immediately knows he's Jesse Pinkman. He's like, listen, Pinkman, we have 6 officers. I mean, 8 down there. You have a choice, give up. There's nothing you can do here. And Jesse flashes to the time that flashback that we just saw with Todd and him giving up the gun to Todd. And he thinks to himself, he's defeated. He goes, this is what I am. I am a fucking pussy and I give up. So whatever. I'm not saying he's a pussy, but he's like, there's nothing I can do here. I'm fucked and I'm not going to kill anybody. I don't want to kill anybody ever again. And you get that feeling that he doesn't. He ends up having to later in the movie, but whatever. And he gives the gun away and lays down. And they go to handcuff him, but they don't handcuff him. They like tie him with this shit that they have and can find the apartment. And Jesse's like, yo, what about the handcuffs, yo? And then Jesse puts it together almost when it's right too late that they're not cops. They gag him, they throw him around, and he bites one of their hands, and he goes, I know where the money is. You two are looking for the cash. So we see the old man knocking again, and one of the other, dude number 1, goes off with him to talk about some useless shit. Then Jesse's left alone with dude number 2, and he says, I'll show you where the loot is. They find it, and it's holy shit. Jesse goes to take a third of the money. He goes, or half the money. He goes, I'm taking my cut. And the guy goes, no, I'm going to fucking kill you. And then Jesse calls him out on it. He goes, you're not going to kill me. You'll have to kill that old guy and kill everyone in this building. You're going to let me take my third of the money and get the fuck out of here, aren't you, buddy? And it's a tense moment. But he eventually lets Jesse go, and he takes the money, and he doesn't tell his friend. Doesn't tell his friend he does this, and he says, "I found the money." And the other dudes with the old talkative guy, and he's like, "Yep, I can deal with talking to this guy for money. I'll be here." Yeah, Jesse should have shot Todd right there. I agree. At that point in time, he should have accepted that there's nothing I can do. I'm just gonna shoot Todd right now. Fuck that. And then I'm gonna drive to Brock and get the Brock the fuck out of here. I mean, I understand that, how he's feeling and being so beat down in that moment, but I was screaming for him to kill him there too. I was like, come on, just fucking shoot him, motherfucker. I never wanted Jesse to kill 2 dudes more than those fake fucking cops. El Streamito. Yeah, totally Stockholm Syndrome. I wouldn't say he loves his captors, but in a sense, I think it's more that he's just been beaten down so much by life that he thinks that everything he tries is going to fail, so why bother trying? And he doesn't want to hurt anybody else, and he thinks if he does anything, Brock is killed. I don't think it's so much Stockholm Syndrome in the way that he's thinks of Todd as his friend right now, or he's in the way that I am with The Walking Dead, that I've watched it so long that I'm like, it can be good. I think it's more that, and maybe I'm not understanding the definition of it exactly, so it is. I think it's more fear for Brock's life that causes him not to do that, and not wanting to take another life. Fear of being horrified and even though Todd's an awful person, being haunted by the image of killing another person. I think everyone wanted to strangle that landlord. But he was funny. Well, that actor's been in a lot of things. I believe that actor was in The Sopranos too, playing one of the uncles of Tony during season 5 when they go up to visit. I don't know if it's the same guy. I could be wrong about this, but I could be reaching out. I could be pulling a good one here. It's either I'm pulling a good duty or I'm 100% wrong. I want to say that he might be the same guy that plays Tony and Christopher and Tony Blundetto's uncle when they go up to his farm, but I could be wrong about that. Okay, so he's trying to find the right vac. Okay, so then he gets out of there, and the dude says to him right before he leaves, "Oh, you remember me?" Because Jesse gets a flash that he's the guy that hooked up the grates that trap him in the lab. So he decides, fuck it, I'm getting out of here. He drives out of there, and he tries to find the vacuum cleaner salesman that was going to pick him up in season 5. He almost smells freedom here, and you can tell that at this point in the story, you're like, oh, so this is the whole story. Him finding a way out. We see the vacuum cleaner salesman. He finally finds a Max effing Cherry. The great actor, Max Cherry. We see him. He's going back and forth with a woman about a vacuum cleaner. Jesse gets in there. He pulls out the $125K and gives a very excellent monologue about how he knows for sure that he's the guy. He knows 96% sure that you're the guy, and admit it here. I need your help. So finally, Max Cherry says, fuck it, and goes, actually, you still owe me $125 from the last job that I didn't pick you up. You need $250 to get the fuck out of here. And Jesse realizes that he's 10 grand short, and the guy is like, yep, exact price only. So Jesse reaches into his pocket, realizes he has another stack, and he has 8,200 of the 10 grand. He is 1,800 short. And Max Cherry's like, packs up all his money and tells him to get the fuck out of here. He's like, for 1,800, he's like, go fuck yourself. Jesse's like, I'm not leaving here. Max Cherry's like, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, dude, you're fucking pathetic. I'm going to stay here because, I'm going to stay here till you give me what I want. And Max is like, I'm going to call the cops on you. And he calls the cops. And Jesse goes to walk out, and he's like, wait a second. This is another funny moment in the movie. He's like, you didn't call the cops. You're full of shit. You're a coward. You never do that because you have more to lose than I do. Blah, 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 blah. All this shit. Screams. And then classic Jesse Pinkman moment. Right behind him, the cops pull up, and he's like, fuck, bitch. And he gets out of there. He doesn't try to bust him. He tells the cops that it's someone completely different that was in the room. And we see the telephone ring. Hear the telephone ring. Jesse calls him and says that if I get the money, will you actually get me the hell out of here? And the guy says, yep, deal's a deal. So we see Jesse's parents. Jesse calls his parents, and he tricks them into knowing that they would come after him or try to bust him or send the cops away from his house. Breaks into his parents' house so he can steal a couple of guns. Then he goes over. I thought there's going to be more to this, but ultimately we learn that his parents have favored the other kid. And I wish we saw Jesse's brother in here. Maybe there was a deleted scene of him seeing his brother, but they probably brought the brother with him. He gets 2 guns. One is a little 22, and then we see another gun that he has on him as well. He goes there to he figures out where the guy that took the money from him and set up the grates there. He remembers him. He finds his shop, and we get to see Jack's number 1. We get another flashback of Jack's number 1 with Todd setting up the grates for Jesse. We see him being like, you have to fake escaping. We see him running and like hurting himself as he fake escapes here. Bet you can't break out of here. They bet $50 on Jesse basically kicking his own ass trying to break out of here. So then we see Jesse watch hookers leave as hookers arrive at the property and then leave, and we see a big bodyguard guy. They think, oh, is this guy's bodyguard? No, he's just the guy that's in charge of the hookers. And the hookers come, they leave. Then we hear some rock music kicking in as it seems like it's going to be a shootout. Jesse's going to come in and shoot all these people. But it isn't that. Jesse comes in where they're all doing coke, and it's a very funny, weird setup scene where everything's kind of casual. And the other guy is like, you gave this kid 1/3 of the money. What the fuck? It basically turns into a situation where the main guy, the number 2 guy that set up the grates, is like, listen, Jesse, why don't we shoot for this? You got a little 22 weapon. I got a 45. Let's have a shootout, and whoever wins gets the money. Jesse agrees to it. It gets really pulpy and silly in a fun Breaking Bad kind of Tuco-y way, where they get set up for a gun battle. They focus it on just like a Western on where the guns are, but we all know already that Jesse's already holding a gun in his pocket, already aimed at this guy that the guy doesn't know about. He goes, are you ready? And Jesse shoots him and kills him. Then the other guy comes after him. The other guy is whose money it is, and Jesse has to kill him too in a little shootout action scene that happens. And Jesse screams at the other guys. He says, get the fuck out of here. He collects all their licenses, looks at the licenses, I know who all of you motherfuckers are. If any of you guys report me, I am going to come and find you and kill you. A little Walter White kind of moment here. and they all book it out of there. And one guy on his way out, another little funny side moment. One guy's like, "You're on fire." Jesse's like, "Yeah. Oh shit, I am on fire." He's got the cash now. He blows himself out. We see Jesse in a bath pouring ice on him as we see a flashback to Walter White. Then we get to Walter White. Jesse's the one that's knocking on Walt's door. We see them driving out. This is somewhere after the time of they just made all the meth that eventually gets sold to Gus, somewhere in the Breaking Bad timeline or in Jesse's mind. Again, stuff to be analyzed, or listen to the podcast that Vince does after this, who will tell you the real information. By all means, don't listen to this. Listen to the Breaking Bad Insiders podcast that will come out about this movie eventually. Then we go off to a salad bar, and yeah, bitch, they're at fucking Denny's, and we see or some sort of fruit bar, and we see Walt coughing, and I think this is right before Walt got his good news that the cancer had. I think this is the timeline on it. It's right before Walter got the news that his cancer was in remission, because he's coughing because of broken blood vessels, and he thinks he's coughing so much because the cancer came back. We get pineapple talk between the two of them. We get Jesse and comforting Mr. White because he's coughing, and Jesse doing the taking care of cancer patient stuff that he did with his aunt. We hear some bad news, and they decide to do one big last cook. Walt wants to sell the meth soon. It may take 6 months. Jesse says his family will get the loot, and he's making him hydrate. Then we get Walt trying to talk Jesse into going to college, and Jesse wants to learn about sports medicine, and Walt says, "Oh God, you fucking idiot, Pinkman. You should learn about business or marketing. You could teach the class. You'd be natural. And you need to get your GED." And this is a funny moment where Jesse goes, I fucking graduated high school. I walked right past you, you dick. And their chemistry is not let up for a second. I'm going to do a whole video, I think, just on this scene between the two of them at some point eventually, or at least break it down more in the cast with Gotti that I do. Because it's just amazing to see the odd couple back together again. And they are great when they go back and forth. And the show is always at its best with Walter. You needed to put Walter in this movie. People can say fan service up their ass. You needed to have the Walter White dick slap us across the face at one point in time. So we flash to Jesse in the van, and Max Cherry stretching it out, making the delivery. He is in Alaska. This is Alaska. Yeah, bitch, it's Alaska. It's quiet. Give him a truck. As we get to that point, it's the end of the movie here, and we see Jesse. That's right. Jesse is in Alaska. He wrote a letter to Brock. He has a Toyota. He imagines Jessica Jones in the car too. And then we get that flash to him and Jessica talking. As I mentioned earlier, it's all about... I always thought it was the universe takes you. You go where the universe takes you. And then she says, I realize it's better to make your own decisions, or make those decisions for yourself. Which leaves us with our message as Jesse drives off, alone with a smile, off to his new life in Westworld. And that's our Breaking Bad movie, El Camino. What did I think about it? I mentioned this a lot at the beginning. Was it needed? Was it a have to happen kind of thing? No, it didn't have to happen. I'm glad it did. It added more texture to the universe, and anyone who doubted the competency of the creative team behind Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul was stupid. Whether you think it's boring or needed or not, the competency is there. They make great television. They make great films. They make awesome art that is visually one of the best creative teams working on the planet. Again, I put them right up there with the Coen brothers in the way they shoot these incredible landscapes. The story to me was a simple story that was enough for one single episode that they stretched out to a 2-hour episode to add some cinematic elements to it. Was it perfect? Did it have points we could be nitpicky about on how long the scene in Todd's apartment lasted? I think Todd was probably the character that they had the most access to, the actor, so they wrote more for his character and to get us more information about him because he's a fan favorite and people wanting to know and just interact more with that character. I think Skinny Pete and Badger could have been even more part of the movie, and I wouldn't have minded because they were such an excellent part. I think the edge that they had at the beginning of the movie could have been amped up a little bit more and made his danger being chased a little bit more, but I think they wanted it to be primary a Jesse going on his emotional and mental journey to get to a place to decide that his life is in his own hands. So we didn't need him chased, but that scene where I thought he was busted by the cops was extremely tense. It created tension. It felt like a Breaking Bad episode. and it felt like it fit on very snugly to the end of the series. I would give it 10,000 or 10 pounds of 1.2 million pounds of side butthole meth. I really liked it. It was made for someone like me that can't get enough of this universe and sniffs Vince Gilligan's bumhole all up and down and will proudly say I'm a fanboy and a card-carrying member of the fanboy club of Vince Gilligan. So that's my thoughts on El Camino. I will be back again in more of with a guest of some sort, either Joe Dirty Locks or Gotti or both of them, to talk about this series again. I need to hurry my ass up because I need to go shower and get ready to go out tonight to some stand-up comedy show of some sort. So we'll see how that ends up. I will be back next week sometime with Joe Dirty Locks to talk about the X-Men movie franchise. And then we'll be back the following Sunday to talk about some Walking Dead. But we're back here. A lot more podcasts to come about this movie and a lot more podcasts to come about a lot of fucking shit. So let's go. It reminds us that Tuco in the henchman scene in season 1, it absolutely reminded me of that scene. You come across a big stash of money, first thing you do is bet some hookers, of course. I love him killing the guy that laughed at him and chained up. I love that too. I thought Jesse was going to see his brother there, would have been nice. I thought so as well. I love you guys all. Thank you so much for tuning in on this. Sorry for the quicker ending to this, but I think we did a good job, us in the live motherfucking chat and here in my babblery breaking down this thing. So much more to break down about it on rewatches, but I think if you're a Breaking Bad fan, you love it a lot. It's worth watching, even if you listen to me just babble about it here. Great stuff. I can't wait to watch it again tomorrow when I get home and watch it in association with the entire series, because I think it does play better if you are coming off a full series watch of Breaking Bad. It fits in extremely well. Is it needed? No. Is it extra special stuff that you want once you get? Yes. I fucking love this shit. I love Jesse. And most of all, I love all of you for being with me today. Yeah, I do. As I struggle to get music on. And if you haven't already, and you enjoy this podcast, enjoy this live stream, hit subscribe button to wherever you can follow me. Follow me on Twitter at I Got Issues Man. You can find me on the Facebook if you search Phil the Issues Guy or Phil's Recap and Review. Subscribe here on YouTube. Podbean. I got Beans of Pods, or you can find us on iTunes. iTunes. I got a Twitch channel, even though I never really broadcast there. And there's lots of other ways to find me. Obviously, if you see me walking down the street, throw rocks at my head. Not like heavy rocks, but, minerals. Minerals, as Hank would say. Yeah, that's right. It was really awesome to talk about Breaking Bad again. And it is one of those series that I may go back one day and do a full rewatch and talk about all the episodes I haven't talked about. Because there's so much to say about this amazing series. So much to say about this amazing movie without just recapping what happened and breaking down all these scenes and what they mean. And I can't wait to do that and watch other videos and watch other people doing that, because this was awesome. This was fucking great. I cannot get enough of this. I want to rewatch it. You don't like it. I don't give a fuck. I appreciate you not liking it, but I don't like that. I don't like you not liking it. It was fun. It was great. It was awesome. Was it perfect? No. Could we pick it apart? Could we pick apart any episode of Breaking Bad? We could, but it's an episode of Breaking Bad. Let's not get twisted here. Whatever it is, whatever you want it to be, even if you didn't like it, one thing's for fucking sure, it's Breaking fucking Bad. We got more Breaking Bad. It exists. It feels like it. Right down the editing, the sound, the music. It's all fucking Breaking Bad, baby. And we got more of it. It's awesome. Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Fuck yes, bitch. Yeah, bitch.